So milk has been at the center of this controversy for a while now. Is milk even healthy for us? Should we drink raw milk? Should we drink pasteurized milk? As usual, humans only think of themselves in this kind of debate, and so the answer is black and white. But the issue is quite a bit more complex, so let's break that down. Milk produced by any animal contains a wide variety of microorganisms. These microorganisms are determined by the diet, the lifestyle, the health, and the environment of the host organism. If we change the lifestyle and the diet of a cow, it's going to alter its microbiome, and that's going to affect the ecosystem within the milk. If those changes are detrimental to the cow, it's going to have a negative impact on the milk, meaning it'll be less healthy, it'll have less of the good bacteria, and it'll be more prone to pathogenic bacteria. In that instance, we would need to pasteurize it to eliminate the possibility of those bad bacteria. Now, this becomes more complex when we also consider our own microbiome and digestive system. The less milk we drink, the worse our ability to digest that milk becomes. The reason this happens is because a lot of the compounds in milk is digested not by the human, but by certain bacteria. To illustrate this example, about a third of human breast milk is not digestible by the infant. Those undigestible compounds are referred to as prebiotic. Prebiotic is simply food that humans can't digest, but that can be food or stimulate the growth of certain colonies of bacteria within us. Not only does breastfeeding provide vital nutrients to the infant, it also helps to grow its important and beneficial colonies of bacteria. It's cultivating an ecosystem within its digestive tract. These have profound and positive impacts in the development of the brain, the immune system, and all the other parts of the body. But once again, all of that kind of goes out the window if the mother is not healthy. This is why something like alcohol can't be consumed while breastfeeding. The nutrients and the microbiome of the mother will be fed into the infant. The most important genus of bacteria in the microbiome of a human is the genus of Lactobacillus, named for their ability to produce lactic acid as a byproduct of breaking down glucose during metabolism. So if you're unable to digest milk or you're lactose intolerant, you don't have the gut bacteria necessary to digest those compounds. And this is where it continues to get complex, because if you pasteurize your dairy products, you never restore or reinforce those bacteria. At the same time, if you were suddenly to introduce raw milk, you could have a lot of digestive problems, including getting sick, especially if there is an infection in that milk. Now, there's plenty of countries or communities that drink raw milk and are perfectly okay. If their cows are healthy and they've been doing it for generations, they likely have the microbiome necessary to do that. So when we change the microbiome of a cow and the microbiome of a human, we start to lose compatibility for that resource. The digestive tract is a thriving ecosystem of creatures, and it can be cultivated. Some species of organisms will change on a 24-hour basis, and some will take years to change. There's different varieties. This could also provide insight into people who suddenly change their diet and find themselves sicker than before. If you do a completely 180 dietary change, you're likely unable to digest a lot of that food. You don't have the microorganisms for that. So if you want to make significant diet changes, it's most likely smarter to slowly introduce those changes. And again, in terms of dairy products, it's much safer to do something like yogurt or kefir or other fermented foods. But this doesn't have to be a guessing game. We have the capability to test our microbiomes, to test the microbiomes of cows, and to make sure the process from production to shipping is free from pathogens. Considering all those variables should be the job of a biologist or microbiologist. Because Lactobacillus is so integral to the human development, the immune system, the brain function, and so on, we probably want to continue to include that in our microbiome. The Neolithic or the agricultural revolution about 10,000 to 15,000 years ago incurred a lot of changes in our microbiome. We started to make a lot of dairy products and drank a lot of raw milk. Cows, as well as goats, were a vital source of food. A lot of food in ancient cultures were cooked by microorganisms, so they were constantly feeding and building up their microbiome. I believe through mythology we can learn the role that these dairy-related bacteria strains had on the human psyche. Many of these agricultural communities started to revere cow goddesses and cow mothers as sacred entities. They were symbolic in many different ways and helped to form the cosmological view of the universe. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is named after the events of Heracles, who was feeding too hard on Hera while she was asleep, and so she pushed him away and milk spilled and formed the galaxy. So this probiotic food source, human milk and cow milk alike, which is integral to the formation of our very mind, our very brain, what it means to be human, is translated in the legends of our very cosmological view and of the sacred reverence of cows, which is the perceived source of these colonies, of these bacteria. What I mean is that because our subconscious is our microbiome, it feeds into what we ultimately believe and revere. Any psychology or anthropology should consider the correlations between the microbiome and the host, both on an individual and on a communal or civilization scale. There's probably a lot of correlation between dysbiosis of the microbiome and what we sexualize. Most cultures up until recently did not sexualize breasts, especially in ancient cultures where mothers and cows had special significance and symbolism. It's certainly a bad sign that we've gotten to the point where breasts are so sexualized that breastfeeding is now the stigma. And in many cases, not just in public, but breastfeeding is discouraged entirely. There's probably something to be said for revisiting Freudian psychology in terms of the microbiome development. With things like calling romantic partners baby or saying MF so much, it certainly indicates a problem. If the microbiome plays such a significant role as an infant through puberty into adulthood, it's likely that we need to consider those aspects of human social life and cognitive development in terms of the microbiome development as well. But this again comes back to the crux of the argument. If we over-pasteurize, we don't reinforce and we don't reintroduce those bacteria into our body. At the same time, if our cows aren't healthy and we don't have clean shipping and manufacturing processes, you risk infection, and so you have to pasteurize. We should then put in efforts to making sure the cows are healthy and their microbiomes are healthy, and that we slowly reintroduce those bacteria, which are highly beneficial for us as agricultural species. The microbiome varies widely from person to person, from country to country, from lifestyle to lifestyle, from diet to diet. There are still tribes of nomadic hunter-gatherers who have completely different microbiomes, and that's perfectly okay. In many ways, they are extremely healthy from disease and pathogens. In our current lifestyles, we have to make the decision that will best suit us. The ecosystem of our gut has to be cultivated into something beneficial for us. Since we are not doing that, what we're seeing is a rise of every kind of illness, from mental, cognitive to physical. Chronic illnesses, diabetes, obesity, cancer, all kinds of issues are arising because we aren't taking care of our bodies. So to clarify as a final note, I'm not pushing for raw milk or pasteurized milk. I'm pushing for an understanding of why and what is going on. All of these variables are researchable. We can figure everything out and understand the interactions between microorganisms and the compounds of dairy products, as well as likely return to a healthier understanding and reverence for cows and for mothers and for breastfeeding. But that is just my thoughts and speculations on the matter, so thanks for watching.